That's the only phone message on there. So this little bantering thing between Don and George went on for a while. Oh, look, it's just Don. And Don would go, come on. And it's stuck. Folks sometimes ask Don why it wasn't Pastor Don or Preacher Don or Chaplain Don. And his answer was pretty much usually the same. I'm just a basic boogerhead biker out to tell another basic boogerhead biker about Jesus. Just Don. And that's just what he did. Dan Rice, you're about the only one that ever called him Pastor Don, and he was honored and humbled. Between June 24th and November 11th, we spent 8 weeks in the hospital. There isn't enough time to thank everyone by name that's loved us and supported us. And if I tried, we'd be here till supper and we'd still miss some. Our family, friends, brothers and sisters in the ministry and church have blessed us in so many ways, but I have to take a moment to thank Steve and Terry Soper. They spent many long days in the hospital with us. It started out, you guys up for some company? And then after that, they just showed up. They come walking in the door. Thank you to Pastor Randy and Lisa. Just Pastor Jeremiah, Alexa, you guys have been great. Pastor John and Dottie, you were there a lot of the time. The unending visits, the prayer and encouragement, it just kept both of us going. To our loving family and friends, David, Jesse, Exeter, Jean, Robert and Tammy, Misty, Mark, Jean, Mark, Dan and Beth. And thank you, Gina, for the many, many trips from California to spend time with your Uncle Don, and for making him laugh, sometimes when nobody else could, and for lifting me up. And to our Bikers for Christ brothers and sisters, for the visits, love, and support and encouragement. To everyone that was there that night, thank you for being there and blessing Don and I with your presence, your love, and your prayers. I can't call you all by name. There are so many of you, but no, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and he does too. And finally, I got a huge thank you out there for Rich Schlalos and Norma for taking my idea for a special urn for Don and creating it into a work of art. If you haven't seen it, come see it. It's an Indian motorcycle cylinder and head. It's on half-inch plate steel, and that booger weighs 65 pounds. You hear those women that complain about cleaning up around their husband the rest of their life? I will be cleaning around my husband for the rest of my life because he's not moving. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to share a couple of remarks, and then we've got a song, and then we're going to give an opportunity for you to share. With my wife in the back, I didn't want to break this out at home because I was afraid I'd get killed. But in honor of Don, my first tattoo, baby. I'm kidding. That really did. The Italian was just about to come out back there. I knew you would appreciate that. Pastor John, believe it or not, you were talking about this and it was blowing my mind. One of the first cars I ever had was a 64 and a half fastback Mustang baby blue. I knew we were connected. So many wonderful words and memories have been told today. So I don't think there needs to be a whole lot more. I do want to say in this community and across the land, and it's proven by you that are here today, many of you out of state, some all the way from Arizona, wherever you're at. Where are you at? Reno, Tucson, Yosemite. Where else you guys from? Arkansas. Why? I'm kidding. My grandparents lived in Arkansas. Don has left a huge hole in all of our lives. And that's a wonderful thing. Because people that don't leave big holes means they didn't mean anything to us. His smile could light up a room before he ever spoke. And it wasn't just a smile, it was the warmth behind the smile. Don had a way of coming in and not just lighting things up, but warming things up. His character, his honesty, his loyalty. I can tell you, and I'm sure Pastor John, I'm sure the Pastor Z could tell you the same thing, his loyalty is what won me. I tell my church all the time, I can teach anybody to do about anything, but I can't teach loyalty. You either have it or you don't. And in my world, if you have it, I have time for you, and if you're not loyal, I have no time for you. Don was constant. He was someone that could reassure you that everything was going to be all right. Don saw me in times of frustration. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there's this old thing through pastors that, precious little sheep, wonderful little sheep. Sheep can bite. There are times when, as a pastor, you get bit. And I'm teaching my son through my actions what not to do at times when you get bit. I wasn't always saved, and sometimes when you're not careful and fully sanctified, that old man can rise back up. And Don would help me settle back down. Mainly because he knew I would probably get beat out of me. I'll let you fill in the blank. Don was a friend. Don was somebody that you could count on when you couldn't count on anybody else. He was there when nobody else was. He showed up when everyone else left. My dad taught me a long time ago the meaning of the word friendship. When everybody else walks out, that person walks in. Don was that kind of a guy. I remember the first time I met Don. It was right up in that office, as a matter of fact. Never forget this. Don had come in. If I'm not mistaken, somebody had started coming to church here, and Don actually showed up to make sure that he wasn't coming to a cult. I think that's actually why he showed up. And so he came upstairs and we began to talk. And if you know anything about Don, you know that Don is not a man of a few words. Once you begin to talk and he begins to open up, throw your clock out, throw the alarms out, because it'll be over when he is over. So we started to talk, and my wife was in the other room, the other office, and I think we were supposed to go do something. I'm not quite sure, can't remember what that was, but 30 minutes went by, and then an hour went by, and we continued to talk. And we're talking about motorcycles, we're talking about clubs, we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about another hour goes by, and we're still talking. Somewhere within that 2 to 2.5 hours, Lisa had come in, and with only a look that a wife can give you, she let me know, I don't know who he is, and I don't much care who you are right now. How much longer are you going to be? And I looked at her and I said, hey, just short amount of time. Another hour goes by. We were talking for about 3.5 hours of a conversation. I didn't sleep in my bed that night. Not sure I ate for the first couple of days, but after we met, he and Becky started coming to church. And I realized that I had just been introduced to someone that was going to become very close to me. And that's what happened. We became very close. Let me give Don and Becky one of the greatest compliments that I could ever give. We would have gatherings here, or they would have dinners here. And pastors, if you're here, you will appreciate this. Don and Becky were the kind of people that when they came in and used your church or used your kitchen or used whatever, it always looked better when they were finished than when they had used it to begin with. They were people of integrity. As I just close this up, we're going to have a song, then you're going to get to say something. I will not close this at all without first sharing with you what he will want me to share with you. Don't move into eternity without finding out who this Jesus is. Some of you will not want to speak to your friends about this because of the life you live. But I challenge you, when you're by yourself, call out to the one that loves you more than anyone else and gave his life for you. His name is Jesus. And he loves you. And I would ask one favor, Don. Just one. Tell my mom I'm doing okay. Still moving forward. And I'll see her soon. Thank you, Becky, for loaning your husband to change so many of our lives. Play that song.
Here's a hymn that a lot of you have been requesting. It's an awful fun.
Say that again. This was the last thing he said to Becky.
All the boys and myself. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land. Many years I've been looking for a place to call home, but I failed here to find it, so I must travel alone. I don't care for fine mansions on earth's sinking sands. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land, in the shade of the tree of life that it may ever stand, where I can just hear the angels sing and shake Jesus' hand. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land. Blessed Lord, I'm not asking to live in the mess, for I know I'm not worthy of such splendor as this. But I'm asking for mercy while humbly I stand. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land, in the shade of the tree of life that it may ever stand, where I can just hear the angels sing and shake Jesus' hand. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of Glory Land. I have many loved gone on this way. On the great final morning shall I hear them say, come and join in the singing and playing our band. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of glory land. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of glory land, in the shade of the tree of life that it may ever stand, where I can just hear the angels sing and shake Jesus' hand. Lord, build me a cabin in the corner of glory land.
That's all right now, boy. Yes, sir, that's all right.
Amen. All right. Pastor Jeremiah, I believe you and Sarah's got a couple of microphones, and you guys don't have to come up here. But if you got something you'd like to share, a story that means something to Becky, then now is your time. Just raise your hand, and they're going to bring a microphone to you. Right down here.
Keep it short, folks.
I already told her that I wasn't going to keep it short because I don't have to. No. All I can say is that Don and Becky brought me into their house in 1996. Coming up from California, from being on the streets and being into drugs, pretty heavy, looking at prison time. Becky and I only had met in '93 because we didn't grow up together. But they brought me into their home and welcomed me like I was their own, and they gave me a chance of life. And I honestly don't know where I would even be today without them. I fell back into addiction for a while, and they were always there for me and never gave up on me, and I don't know what I would do without either one of them. I could always go to Don about anything, and I always knew that I was going to get sound, solid, honest advice. Mm-hmm. He never was going to lie to me about anything. Talk about loyalty. My goodness. Their marriage is an example of a godly marriage. Always. I have two friends here today that Don baptized. So there's not enough words or time for me to even say how much that man meant to me. The best man was a dad to me that I ever had. So.
Very good. Very good. Sarah, right there behind you.
My name's Doug Madeley. They call me Longway. And I met Don and Becky in 2014 in Arizona. And there's a lot of things that Bikers for Christ does in the motorcycle world that we can't show pictures of. We can't go on the Facebook with. But I want to tell you, Don was one of the most evangelical men I've ever met. And quick story, I got a call from Don. Don and Becky were living in Tucson. He goes, I just got a call from, can't even say the club, but a dominant 1% club in North America. They're worldwide. They said they want us to do a funeral at their clubhouse. I went, wow. And Don was on it. And Becky can remember, I don't know who else here was at that event, but Don preached the word at a dominant motorcycle club in Tucson, Arizona. And they set up a white tent on their property. And here are the members of one of the dominant clubs listening to Don preach.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. He preached, "Are your saddlebags packed?" And, we've done several events together, Don and myself. Another example was another dominant club, and we would do their eulogy at their gravesite in Arizona each year. And I wish we could show pictures, but we just can't do that. But I just want everybody to understand that Don was a man with a mission to share the word.
Right.
And we have a half a dozen men like that in Bikers for Christ, Pastor Z leading the team. And Don I learned a lot from Don.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Sarah?
I met Don about maybe 17 years ago when I first joined Bikers for Christ. And I tell you, Don Garino was the best. And he was a great friend, mentor, and brother in Christ. And he was truly a great brother. And again, I met him in my early days of joining Bikers for Christ. When Rich Schlalos would invite me to come up, we'd come up to Roseburg and we would have elder meetings once a year. And so at that time, you could bring a guest from the chapter. And so I was a guest at these meetings. I was not in leadership, but I'm thankful that Rich invited me to those meetings. Those meetings were really powerful. And Don was our Oregon State elder at the time. And what became clear to me about Don was that he was very interested in building up leaders in Bikers for Christ. And he cared very much about that. And he went to great lengths to discuss leadership concepts and shared materials with us that would help us to that end. A few years down the road, I was asked to become a chapter elder, and then when I would attend those meetings, they became very important to me, and I treasure those times for I learned a lot from Don and his example. Don embodied these qualities as expressed in Psalm 37. The mouth of the righteous utter wisdom, and their tongues speak what is just. The law of their God is in their hearts, and their feet do not slip. And that was Don. He was solid in his faith and the way that he went about things. Just Don. Cool. That was his road name. And although he was humble with the lowercase j, just Don, but he was also fierce in speaking up about the important things that mattered, and he was concerned about what was right and what was just, with the capital J. And Don was humble, and he was a true servant leader. I met Becky right around that time and just got to know her a little bit better over the years. And during Don's illness and after his death, I was just writing notes to myself. And I wrote a note to myself. I was thinking about Don and Becky, and I was thinking, what I wrote was, when I think of Don and Becky, I think they are a love story. That's what I wrote. And it's true. I had the pleasure of spending quality time with the both of them over the years. They had a great marriage, and they were wonderful partners in everything they did together. They shared a very deep love, and I think of their love of what Paul wrote about in Corinthians. And Paul speaks about love and how if you do not have love, you have nothing. And he wrote, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking, and it's not easily angered. And it keeps no record of wrongs. Well, Don and Becky together shared a common love which embodied what Paul wrote in this passage. And they have everything they needed. and their loves persevered in the good times and the rough times. But Don taught us all by the way that he lived. And rest in peace, brother. We know you're with the Lord Jesus. Rest in Jesus.
Very good.
We'll see you soon enough.
Very good.
I met Don Garino and I met Don in 2012. I took my daughter to Father's Daughter Dance. Bikers for Christ was like doing this security gig, making sure, no guys went into the girls' bathroom with these little girls going in there, that weren't supposed to be in there. They let the fathers go in, they take their daughter to the bathroom, but, they didn't let nobody else go in there. They were watching that door pretty closely, and Don was the one watching that door. And, I had just recently got back into motorcycle riding, and I asked him what Bikers for Christ was about. I had no idea, never heard of it. I was pretty new in my faith, and he shared a little bit, and he said he invited me to a meeting, and that's what started our relationship. Shortly after I decided to do this Bikers for Christ deal, Don decided to up and leave and go to Arizona. And I'm like, oh, wow. I hadn't really, I started building relationships with other guys in the chapter, but Don was the one I was like really talking a lot with, and they left. And, our relationship kind of stopped, for a few years. And I became the elder for Douglas County, and I had lots of questions. And so our relationship started to blossom again because I'd call him down in Arizona and I'd ask him questions after questions. And I got to tell you, he never once put me off. He always talked to me. We went down there one year, I think it was 2017 maybe, I don't know. First time I went to Arizona, we went to Bike Week, but we went down to Tombstone, Arizona. We stayed at Green Valley with Don and Becky for a couple of days. And the one thing that, besides the Tombstone, the one thing I remember is Don going out in the backyard. They had an orange tree. And he picked some oranges, and him and my son Braden, he had a juicer or something, and they're making fresh squeezed orange juice. I just remember him, and to see the smile on his face while he was doing that with my son was priceless. It's a memory I have, This might take a second. 2020, they wanted to move home. We got a wild hair. We flew down there, COVID and all, in the airplane, and we drove them back. We've had a lot of times in motels together. Let me tell you, we've been on a lot of trips. I would get a wild notion to do something, and Don would support that. Hey, let's go to Yellowstone in the middle of COVID. Well, Becky starts planning the trip. I mean, what was the name of that place? The Geyser, Old Faithful Lodge. We got a room for 3 nights at the Old Faithful Lodge because of Becky. That was fun. I never heard of Old Faithful before this. And we did a lot of traveling together, and we built a solid relationship. And one thing, we were sitting in the shop before he extended it out one day, and he asked me, he says, well, what do you want to grow in your life? And I told him, sorry, babe. I told him, I don't know how to love my wife. everybody in my family has been divorced. The legacy that my dad left is divorce, walk away from everything. And I don't want that to happen. The last 5 years, Don and Becky has been in Oregon. That's what we focused on when we spent time together. We'd be out in the garage working on the bikes. We'd be going somewhere together, and not by words sometimes, but by his actions and the way he loved Becky showed me how to love my wife better. And I'm grateful for that. You know, we were sitting in church, you know, right after Don passed away, and it's on that card. I don't know who's got a card, but it says, Matthew 5:16 says, I'm going to back up and I'm going to go to 14. You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. That's Don. He is on that hill.
Yeah.
He was that light for Christ. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but put it on a stand. It gives light to all the house. Just think of a candle when it's pitch dark and you set it up high. It lights up more than if you put it down low. And 16's on that card. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to the Father who is in heaven. Everything Don did in his life, he did to glorify God.
Very good.
He shared his love with his wife, with me, to glorify God. One of the greatest things we have is time. And we sacrifice time away from our loved ones to do something else. So thank you, Becky, for allowing Don to time with me,
Absolutely.
to grow my faith, and to show me how to love my wife. I love you.
Very good. Very good.
Can I sit down? What's that? Well, I don't know if I'll probably cry too, so. So I met first time, I think it was 92 when I got out of prison the first time. And I had my very first shovel head. I got through the Jokers, and that was who I was doing, what I was doing, running around with. And I got out of prison, and I needed to sell it in order to take care of my wife and my child. Don and Becky came out, and they ended up buying that bike, and that's where I met them. Since that time, I would run into them, you know, different places here and there, and I'll tell you something about Don and Becky. So Pastor John knows me, and he was responsible for their walk. They're responsible for my walk with Christ. Mm-hmm. And what happened was I got in a bunch of trouble, and I was going to do some federal time. I didn't know how long I was going to be gone, and I was waiting, and Don and Becky's home became a place for me. It was a safe place. I would sleep on an air mattress, and I would spend the night there just because it was a safe place for me to be. And I got really interested in BFC. And Don made sure, and I know he pulled strings, he made sure that I had that patch before I went, which is so cool. So, long story short, I go to federal prison. And I was suited, and well, Don used to say, pray up, suit up, boot up, and I was all of that. And they made sure of it. And I walked into that prison as a Christian, a solid Christian. And they brought me to this church, and the church, Pastor Randy always stood behind me 100% while I was there. And I'll tell you something about Don and Becky. So the day I had to go to Lompoc, I had to turn myself in. And my twin brother Mitch, we were in a motel. And Mitch was going to take me in the next day. And I'm just trying to tell everybody, I was the one that was saying, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. They're like, are you sure, Mark? Yeah, it'll go quick. Don't worry about it. It's only 70 months, 5 years. Don't worry about it, you know? And getting ready to go in, all of a sudden, guess who's there? Dawn and Becky. I couldn't believe it. They were there. Gave me hugs and kisses and all that stuff. And I will tell you, the thing about Dawn and Becky is that you know, I know most of my life I've always wondered about love. Always wondered, you know, me and Mitch were adopted, and I know my parents did the best they can, but it was a broken home. And I always wondered about what love was about from a mom or a dad, what it truly meant, somebody that I could truly depend on. And that was Dawn and Becky. And they became that to me for the first time in my life, somebody that I could count on, and somebody that I knew that would lead me in the right way. And they always showed up. And the feds liked to move you around. It didn't matter where I went, Dawn and Becky would come. And it was so awesome, because when they came, they were there the whole, I don't know how many hours we got, but most people came to visit me, even my own brother. He was like an hour long, he left. Every time they came, they stayed the whole time, shared with me, talking about the Lord, just so much. They were there so much that even the other inmates knew who they were. You know, it's true. And some of the police officers, or the cops, whatever you want to call them, they're all cops to me, but whatever. Anyways, that were in there, they got to know him too. And you know, faithfully, every month, faithfully, there was money on my books. I never struggled in there, because Dawn and Becky made sure of that. When I got to the end of my time, I was really worried about where I was going to live. I needed to be in a place that, you know, I couldn't be around other people that were doing things I can't be around. And I didn't really know too many people. And Dawn and Becky had skipped out and went to Arizona on us. And one day, Dawn says, you know, Mark, you need to leave that in God's hands. I said, okay. And then one day he just told me, he says, you've got a spot. What are you talking about? You've got a home. They had this great deal, and they bought a house in Winston, so I had a home to go to when I got out of prison. And they live there now. She come back home, which was a smart move. But long story short is this, gives the kind of people that they are. You know, you don't come across these kind of people. They're amazing. Right. Amazing people. So real quick, the one thing that I will tell you, two things I know that Dawn taught me that I love more than anything, was when I first started coming to church here, he told me, he says, Mark, he says, whatever you do, don't call Pastor Randy. You always address him as a pastor. I said, okay. And I've always honored that, and I've always done that. And it did make a difference, because when he married me, he said that. He said, the one thing I love about you, Mark, is you always address me as pastor. And that was because of Dawn. You know, and the other thing was, I'm a hothead. I go from 0 to 100, and Dawn taught me, said, you know, Mark, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, I want you to do this. He goes, I want you to give it 24 hours, he used to tell me. He did. That doesn't always pan out for me, but he did teach me that. So, anyways, I love you, Becky, and Dawn. I mean, one of a kind.
So, very good. We're going to have a couple more, starting with right back there. We're going to have a couple more, and then we have got food downstairs, And you guys can tell a lot of stories downstairs. We got some people standing up to do it. We'll be fine. Very quickly, Mark was on his way home shortly after he'd got out of prison. He's on his way home, and apparently he was going too fast, and the cop was right behind him, which kind of shook him up a little bit. And the cop stopped him, and out for a week. Cop stops him and says, "What are you doing? You're going pretty fast, blah, blah, blah." And Mark said, I love this. Mark said, "I just came from church, man. I just came from church." And so the cop says, "Oh, yeah? Yeah, what church you go to?" I said, "Well, I go to this, Pastor Randy in New Beginnings." He says, "Really?" Shortly after that, I get a call from a cop. And the cop says, "Hey, do you know this guy by the name of Mark Myers, and did he really just come from church?" The reason he was asking that is because that cop also attended my church, New Beginnings. All right.
Hey everybody, I'm Danny, and real quick, I think it was maybe 20, 25 years ago, I got a call from Pastor Z, and he says, "Hey, we got some guys up in Roseburg, they need a place to stay in Reno for street vibrations." And I said, "Yeah, he gave him the address, and I left the garage door open, and next thing I know, there's like 10 bikes rolling in my garage, But from day one, it was family. These guys, kindred hearts, I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes you meet someone and you feel like you've known them your whole life. And it was that way with Don and Becky and Mac, wherever you are, and your wife. But it really meant a lot to me. And so I've heard a lot of good things about Don, and just to sum it up, the only thing I can say is not that I am, but if I was, Don would be the guy. He's awesome. Thanks.
Very good. Very good.
Hi. Hello? I've met Don and Becky in '95 at the SOS run. You probably don't remember this, it's been a while, but years ago I walked up to the Bikers for Christ booth and I said, "I'm the paramedic here." And he said, "Oh, we could use one of those, especially with bikers." And I asked if they could do a prayer. And, they were all kind of busy. And he goes, "I'll be there." So him and his wife walk up. And before that, there was a guy that walked up, and his wife had been stung by a bee, and he went to go get the EpiPen. Well, Don and Becky walk up, and I'm holding a beer, because the guy hands me a beer. It's not mine. But he hands me a beer, and he gives me this look, and he goes, "Are you a party worker? Or are you a worker?" And I said, "Well, I'm a worker, I don't party." Here I'm holding this beer, saying, I like this stuff, and he's like, gives me this look, and he goes, he's kind of gives me this look like, "What kind of prayer should I give you?" You hear you're saying you don't drink and you're not partying, but you got this beer in your hand and stuff. The guy walks back, takes the beer, he smiles at me, he goes, "I did have a different prayer for you." But I said, "Well, thank you." But they gave me a prayer, and we've met, over the years. We've started way back with Praying Warriors. Then we went to CMAs, and then ABATE and OGARD. But I've always rode with them for many, many years. And they're just a blessing for like everyone says. They're a blessing. They knew when I was sad, when I was going through my divorces, he would come up and give me an encouragement, and tell me I wasn't at fault. It just didn't work out, because I felt that I was at wrong. But both of them over the years, the toy runs, everything, and things like that. One time he came to my booth, and I said, "You came to give me a prayer?" He says, "No." He says that So I was telling about stories that my first man abused me, and he's shared stories and stuff of other people he was knowing. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but it what's given me the strength that kept going
Very
on
good.
for my life
Very good.
and stuff. And like I say, every time I see them, they'd be across the field. I'd run across the field just to get a hug and a prayer from.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent.
May I say something? I am a mile monster. They can mention mile monster. Unfortunately, I did not have an opportunity to know Don, nor did a couple of my counterparts up here. We know Becky. Becky, you are a monster. You're part of our family. If Riot was here, he would say, "We love you, darling."
Very good. Excellent. All right.
You'll be hearing from me about mile monsters. We're going to do some money raising this summer. Duchenne muscular dystrophy, they need to live the best life they can while they can.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
She exaggerated about the 500 miles. It was only 400.
But you gotta go home.
Yeah, I gotta go. Hey, nobody mentioned Don was a really good rider. He liked to go fast.
Hey, just before we go downstairs and have something to eat, I want to make a quick comment. I promise it'll be quick. To all of our bikers that are here today, I know we've had, some of them had to leave, but we've had some 1%ers here today. We've had some other clubs that are here today. And I want to make sure you understand that if you find yourself in a situation, whatever that may be, why don't you call me? This place called New Beginning is a pretty cool place. It's a place where you understand that the judging is left to God and the loving He leaves to us. And we will love you, care for you, do our best to help you. We have a tradition around here, and that tradition is this: we don't leave before we say the Lord's Prayer, because almost everybody knows that. So I'm going to ask my Italian wife if she'll come up here. Her eyes just got that big. I want you to meet, for you that don't know, the one that makes me the man that I am. Would you stand to your feet, please? Now, wouldn't she look good in leather? Ouch! Here we go. Thank you again for being here. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. And everybody said, Amen. God bless you. Thank you for being here.
You are ornery. You're going to...